Hey everybody, what is up? I've got a Paragon State of the Game video for you today showing off some of the legacy gameplay from yesteryear, and this is likely going to be the final State of the Game video for Paragon that I'll be making for probably at least a little while. The reason for that is threefold, but before I get into those, I do want to talk about the patch itself. The patch 38.3 is good. It's actually a pretty good patch. I liked a lot of the hero changes that were introduced, especially to Richter. That was an awesome change. I like the various nerfs and buffs to the various heroes that needed them and required them. Those have all been great. And then they have the start of their major card rework, and it's a pretty good start so far. I like a lot of the card changes. I feel like I could make some builds that actually have some variety to them that aren't just stacking of basic stats like crit, damage, defense, lifesteal, so on and so forth. I can actually make a build that focuses on, say, using an ability and then using a basic attack and having that basic attack do a bunch of extra damage because of a certain passive on a card that I'm using. So I really like that that's the thing. And then we've got the other changes, the new loot system via the chests. You got your bronze, silver, gold, and diamond chests, and the victory chests are now silver chests. And whenever you level up your hero to level 6, 7, or 9, you get diamond chests. And these chests can actually give you some really nice rewards. Like, they'll give you straight up coins, they can give you keys, they can give you straight up tier 2 skins. And I was initially ready to take up my pitchfork and start just yelling and screaming and complaining that the rewards weren't retroactive. For those of us who already have a variety of heroes at level 6, 7, 9, and mastered, that we weren't getting any of those rewards because they are so much better than what they used to be. But thankfully, Epic did a really nice thing, and they gave us all of those retroactive rewards, and that was a really nice gesture, and I really appreciate that. So, why exactly am I leaving Paragon then? The first reason is, since I've moved to the PC platform, I had expected the game to just run flawlessly, play flawlessly, and all of that and so forth. I've actually had a lot of instability in both frame rate and, well, just overall stability in general with the client itself. Just today, while I was playing, I had it crash 5 times in the time span of an hour. And it really set me behind the entire match, and I was trying to stream it, and it would just crash and crash and crash and crash. And it's not like I have a problem like running the game that it runs so poorly that it crashes itself or anything. No, I had it max settings, and I was streaming it, and I was still pulling 60, 70 frames per second, right? And it would still crash on me. And then, after the 5th crash, when I was playing the game and it didn't crash for a while, it was running terribly. It started running at 30, 40 FPS, and then it gradually decreased from there, 20, 30 FPS, and then down to spikes between 5 and 15 frames per second. And that is completely unplayable. It made it so that I couldn't even play Murdoch at that point. And while they can most certainly patch these issues away rather quickly, being the content creator that I am, I need it to work right now. I need it to work while I'm streaming immediately and for hours at a time without any issues. It did on the PS4 for the most part, but it, for whatever reason, doesn't now. And I know some of you may be thinking that, oh hey, it works for me, no problem. That it's just kind of an isolated incident. And maybe it is, but I've searched through all my settings and everything, and I don't really run much on my computer while I'm streaming, while I'm playing. I make sure to shut all that shit down so there really isn't any interference. And I can't think of a reason why that kind of thing would be happening. I just feel like the client on PC's unstable for some people's setups, like mine. And this ties in directly with the second reason, in that I'm just not having that much fun with it anymore. And it all started right around the time that Monolith was introduced. And it's not that I don't like the map visually or the potential of how good the map could actually look. I just really preferred Legacy in terms of topography, in terms of its verticality, which I feel is much higher than Monolith's, and just the general gameplay that the game had back in the day. I know some people didn't like this or don't like this, but I liked travel mode. I also miss Orb Prime dunking to some degree, in Harvesters, but what I think I miss the most is the towers. Not specifically the damage they did or the attack speed or the stacking damage or anything like that. I missed the range, the size of the towers themselves, the radius that the towers took up on the map itself. It made towers feel more imposing, more dangerous. And when you committed to taking down a tower, especially if you were a melee character, you had to get close enough to the point where you would be definitely taking some shots if you made a mistake, or were caught out of position, or had some CC played on you. Whereas in Monolith, for their towers, that danger factor just isn't there. The tower radius is so small and the movement speed has been increased to the point where all you have to do is, tank a couple of shots at most and then just run out of it. It's so little distance to travel at a much higher speed that towers just aren't capable of being the towers that they once were, no matter what the buffs or whatever they introduce. And then that's another thing. I'm not 100% fond of the direction that Epic is taking Paragon. I don't like how they're not buffing turrets at all in any capacity to make up for the fact that they are so much smaller and the distance to travel to escape a tower is so much quicker. I don't like that they're completely ignoring that aspect of the game and instead are focusing on much faster movement speed and much faster deaths and faster time to kills and all of that. I especially don't like how they're not making changes to the movement system to at least make it so that when you are attacking someone, that they won't eventually outpace you after one or two basic attacks. And even with the shortened cooldowns on abilities, to where you can use them to stun people or slow people so that they can't escape, it's still oftentimes not enough, and you have people ending up chasing the enemy all the way to their inhibitors, even when tier 1 towers are still up on the enemy's side. Granted, those are bad players, but it kind of says something when you are unable to kill somebody after chasing them that long in the kind of meta that promotes a quick time to kill and quick deaths in general. I heavily dislike how they haven't done anything to increase the amount of HP or armor that those respective cards should give you. Granted, they were a little bit much back in Legacy, but they nerfed them way too hard in Monolith. It was too much of a knee-jerk reaction, and they have yet to even acknowledge any of those potential changes and what it might bring to the game. With this patch 38.3, they could have easily made it so that each point of health could have given you 75 instead of 50. And bada bing, bada boom, that probably would have been good enough. And then we've got the newly released banner system, which I would have loved to take a part of. I just didn't want to have to spend 1,000 of my retroactive coins to buy a simple, standard-looking banner, when I should have the ability to buy a customized one at a customized price on the store itself instead of having to rely on potential RNG to give one to me through the loot boxes. And I've got 8 keys, and I'm sitting on no loot boxes right now because I just can't bring myself to grind game after game to get more loot boxes. And while that's not really Epic's fault, it's still kind of scummy that this new banner system, which is kind of cool, can't be enjoyed by everyone. I feel like you should be able to buy, maybe a simple banner for 50,000 reputation instead of 1,000 or $10 worth of coins. And the final reason I'm leaving is simply due to the lack of support that I've seen from Epic for people like me, for people like Flux Revived, for people like Noob Pro. It just never happened. For example, the only support I ever got was when I made a really pandering top 10 tips for Monolith guide video that was really not much more than stuff that people already knew, just kind of rehashed in an easy to digest format. And I had that video featured on the front page of the game for like a week. And I might have gotten an extra 100 subs out of it, right? And that was it. I have never been invited to corporate headquarters. I have never gotten whitelisted for streaming rewards for people who stream Paragon. And I have also never been invited to the inner group of content creators and streamers who have access to some of the inner knowledge in the development team, including future heroes, future changes, as well as exclusive access to a variety of things like free codes, or free skins, or like free footage, and none of that. I am on the same level as every one of you, a consumer. And I am someone who's been making Paragon videos for essentially a year now. It's been almost 365 days worth of Paragon videos. And I feel that I have received too little in the form of support from the dev team for giving so much of my time and energy into the game and supporting it and advertising it and doing my best to be positive about the game. And I'm not necessarily one of those YouTubers for Paragon that will kiss Epic's ass like some out there actually do. I was actually pretty fairly critical in a lot of regards, but I felt I was critical in the right way in order to provoke the right kind of critical thinking and discussion around certain aspects of Paragon that I thought maybe needed to be looked at a little bit. That certainly never meant that I hated the game or wanted to see it fail or anything like that. No, I had the utmost respect and enjoyment and love for the game. Like the way a father loves his child. You know, you only want to see him improve. And through my YouTube videos, I felt like Paragon was that child to me that I wanted to help improve and grow and become this amazing success, but I'm just not seeing it anymore. And it's not just me either, because people like Flux Revived, who, I mean, he's a funny as hell guy. He makes some great Paragon content. He's skilled as fuck with the game. He's diamond. And he jungles with the craziest heroes, and he makes it work somehow, and does it in an entertaining way, and it can really draw a big crowd, and he's grown so much from doing that, and it's very impressive, and I love seeing his growth and seeing his style, and knowing that I'll never be able to do that same kind of content, but I can still admire it. And Paragon Epic seemingly doesn't want anything to do with that. They haven't supported him at all. Like, they've supported me more than they've supported him. Like, I at least got one of my videos highlighted, and he's got nothing. And his videos pull 5, 10, 15,000 views per video. It's nuts, and it's kind of a slap in the face for somebody who devotes so much of his time, energy, and humor to making Paragon something enjoyable in that way. And then you've got my friend Noob Pro, who is a full-time streamer. He used to stream this game all the time and pull huge numbers, and he was entertaining as hell. His quality was up there with the best of them. He's got a bunch of awesome macros that allow him to do a bunch of crazy stuff, sound stuff, and all that. And it's always fun to watch, and he was pretty good at the game too. And Epic didn't whitelist him for streaming rewards, never invited him out to visit their headquarters or anything like that. Nothing. Not a thing. And to me, that's just not fair. I understand that Epic, at the end of the day, they get the final say. They get to pick and choose who they want to support. But it's just kind of mean to ignore people who put so much time and effort into what they do for your product and to get nothing in return. Now, the great thing about those two guys, though, is that if they were to leave Paragon, and I know Noob Pro already did, but he's still growing regardless, and Flux has his style and personality and humor that will carry him through to whatever game he plays. But for somebody like me, I know that leaving Paragon in this way is more than likely channel suicide, but I just can't do it anymore. The numbers to me, the growth, the money, it's, you know, what little I make off of ad revenue, it's just not worth it. I need the fun. I need the drive and the passion back before anything else. To me, that's what matters most. And I appreciate all of you who have followed me and subscribed to me and commented and liked all of my Paragon videos so far. And for those of you who really only support me because of Paragon, I apologize that it has to be this way, that I have to leave. I hope that you'll stick around with me for future content and other games like Paladins, but for whatever reason, if you don't want to, I completely understand. You know, you're in it for Paragon, and that's fine with me. If you want to unsubscribe or dislike this video, you know, feel free to do so. It's your right, and I completely understand. But for those who do stay and support me as I transition to bigger and better opportunities, I appreciate that more than you could possibly know. And I do want to clarify, before any of you guys get the wrong idea, that I'm not leaving for any one or two or even three given reasons. It's a multitude of reasons, but the biggest thing is that I'm just not having fun with the game. I'm not having fun with the community. The community especially I have some issues with, because it reminds me of how toxic League of Legends used to get from me. Like, I just recently had a match yesterday. It was the only match I could play that day because of just how turned off I was from the whole thing, where I had my teammates blaming each other for their deaths, blaming me for aspects of their continued deaths that I did not help create. And this wouldn't really bug me all that much if it weren't for the fact that Epic seems more content focusing on a way to sell you more things for real money, like the banner system, as opposed to giving the community actually viable tools to crack down on toxicity while also reinforcing and rewarding positive behavior. I know that toxicity isn't exclusive to Paragon, but there are other games that have found successful ways to deal with this kind of thing, a la League of Legends, where you can actually be rewarded for taking the time to review someone's behavior, either positive or negative, on a case-by-case basis, and are rewarded for each. But all of those issues aside, at the end of the day, what I do on YouTube and what I do on Twitch, it needs to be fun for me. It needs to be enjoyable, and it needs to be something that I look forward to doing. And Paragon just isn't one of those things anymore for me. And that sucks to say, and I didn't really want it to turn out this way, but unfortunately, Epic had other plans that really didn't mesh with the kind of game that I wanted. And, you know, that's fine, it's their game, they gotta do what they gotta do, and a lot of people still enjoy it, and hey, more power to them. It's just not for me. And for those of you who do decide to stick around, I do plan on making a very similar style of content to the stuff I made for Paragon, just for a different game, basically. On top of that, I will also continue to do first impression reviews of titles that I find interesting or just plain bad, because that's fun for me to do, and I like to do fun things regardless of the lack of growth that they may or may not bring. Regardless of how long you've watched this video, if you've lasted up until now, I really appreciate it. Thank you for sticking through all of this, and hopefully you'll see where I'm coming from with this. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you again soon.